Thanks for that one. All right, I just want to add two more. This is another one, which is on the front of a, you can attach it here to the front of a robot. And obviously you can make it higher and narrower and wider and yeah, what you can do. But how this mechanism works is if it goes forward and it goes over, say, a whole lot of little chocolates, and then the gate drops. And so when the robot moves back, the gate is locked so the chocolates can't escape. It was fish. It was in Food Factor, actually. It went over a whole lot of fish, gate closed, and it came back. All right. Passive attachment with a locking mechanism. Okay. And maybe last but not least is this one. This is one of my favorite designs. So you can see there's no mechanism, there's no motor attached to this, but this will go. Let me just turn this robot around. I was just busy charging it here. It'll probably have to go like this onto the robot, and you can see like that. Okay. So how does this work? So if this is attached to the robot and it drives, and this hits an object, can you see it'll tip? So you are using the movement of the robot when it hits an attachment or hits an object, and whatever's on top here will drop in. So I'll show you now a ping pong ball, and then when it gets to there, it'll go chung, chung, and then it'll fall in. All right. These are really good models that save the ports, okay, and are, if you go slow enough, are more reliable than maybe these huge, challenging attachments. Let's first get the passive attachments. And then, of course, there's always the, the bumper. The bumper is flat. You can put the bumper with arms, or you can kind of gather up your stuff like that, or you can plow through it, divide and conquer. All right. So let me show you I just want to go through the presentation quickly. And I'll share my screen, and then we should be finished by 4 o'clock, and then we'll do some practical stuff, seeing how these things work. There we go. All right. And Tamila's going to say you can see
it's
my
visible.
Screen. Thank you. All right. So with the engineering design process, with passive attachments, we like to introduce the engineering design process. It's all too easy for teams just to start building and think, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just like, no, there needs to be some discussion about it. And if you have one child who's thinking of one attachment in one head, then the others just sit around, and that's not a good for teamwork. All right, so let me start with the engineering design process. So the engineering design process we're going to use to develop types of attachments, and with that said, we can always use like the Bricklink Studio or Lego Designer. But there needs to be some design. Even if you just draw it by hand, that's fine. And we're only going to look at the passive attachments. The motorized stuff we're going to do in M2. All right. And there are lots of resources. Okay. So if you look in your overview document, you'll again see there are steps for the engineering. So what's building. Okay. You have to also understand that what is the building that is needed, and then what is the programming that is needed. And I'll tell you now, most of the time when you have a passive attachment, slow and steady. Okay. What are the constraints? So for this thing here, the constraint was that this needed to actually hit the object that you wanted. Whatever was on here needed to be not too heavy, so it didn't weigh it down. So those are the constraints that you're thinking about. The risk, if you're going to go too fast, you probably have a much higher risk anyway. Okay, so in each of the attachments you're going to build, it's good for the learners. I mean, maybe it's just a repetitive exercise, but if they get to answer, because somebody will say, so why did you choose this this gated passive attachment above something else? And they must be able to explain. All right. So the goal is always like, what's the problem? And then you've got to ask around, what are the constraints? And then you've got to imagine some of the solutions. And some kids love drawing and sketching and And then you choose the best one. All right. And then you start planning, you're making lists of the materials that you're going to do, and then you create it, which is like, all right, follow the plan, and then you've got to test it. And everything you do, you have to improve. All right. Very seldom you're going to get a once-off, everything works. You see my testing is coming over and over again. You have to test it and you have to improve it. And for you coaches who are preparing teams for competitions, and moving forward, a good idea is to take lots of photographs. Take photographs, put things down. You can put one-liners down. You get the learners to write sentences and good sentence construction, use the technological jargon. And then it also gets them just to like think about what they're actually doing. All right. Just get back to that of writing down. It's also good to have a class goals for each week. Otherwise, you're going to you're going to keep going around in circles and not get there. And so you're going to come back after 5 weeks and the learners are saying, "Well, we're still trying to do this." Like, no, you've got to do it. Get on with it. You've got to be focused. And then not just say, "Oh, you're going to do everything." No, you do one thing at a time. All right. So the design of robot attachments, there often is modification required. And as you go along, it's fine. It's a forgiving learning environment. All right. How do we decide? So I put it in green because green is my favorite color, but you have to consider the verbs. What is required? What is the problem? What is required of your attachment? Do you have to push something, pull something, collect, deliver, lift, drop, fetch? That is what the verb is. That's what you have to do. And normally when we get a new competition that comes out that launches, we're like, okay, what are the verbs? And then we do mission. We'd make a list. And I think Casper presented a list last year in this class. He gave made it so much easier. You give a list of all the missions that you have to do, and then next to it you just put what are the verbs. You have to push something, pull something, collect something, drop something. Okay, and then you can decide. If you're going to push something, then it's just a bumper. Okay, if you pull something, you might need a hook. If you collect something, you might be going forward and then coming around, but you can do most of the missions with passive attachments. Okay, passive attachments, powered attachments we're doing in M2. All right, so here's my little trigger, and we have to drop. So the verb is drop the ball into the bucket. Okay, so can you imagine my little robot goes forward? Okay, so if it goes forward, then the pivot will trigger that little trigger thing that hangs down when it touches the side of the container. Now, obviously, there's a constraint as well, because if your little pivot point is too high, it's going to miss the bucket. And if it's too low, it's not going to go into the bucket. So there's also a good challenge. I mean, you've got to use different settings. That's kind of where we were going with this different heights. We played around with the different heights. You can see how we tested things here. Okay, so there it's going to go forward. That little pivot thing is going to hit the side of the bucket, and the ball is going to then tip in. Okay, drop. Okay, here again we've got a U shape. And it's got to push the bricks over the forward. So if you move it forward, it's got to push. The verb is push or deliver. So if we go forward, then if we move that whole structure forward and then we come back, then we've delivered it. Okay. We can also go collect if we kind of go around the things and then bring it back. Then we're collecting. All right. And we can add a gate, which I showed you just now. We can add a gate that will open it. All right. Here are some of the attachments. The straightforward bumper is obviously the most straightforward. It just goes straight forward. The fork, we usually add additional what you call it, points to the fork, just to increase our chances of actually picking something up. And the carabiner is a really good. The carabiner, we usually, like on the loop here, we just drop it on here and then it picks it up. Then you can't lose because it's like locked in there. It's a good one to do. All right, that's my pivot trigger, which my boys built for me. That's the gate. You can do this one. Just FYI, I actually noticed now this locking mechanism must actually be on the other side, by the way, because it must come up to bring the things in, and then it must go back. Okay, so that's an error. There's a hook. There's a one hook, and obviously the length of it must obviously, if it's too wide. If your hook is too wide, it's not going to go in here, and so that little axle has got to be able to go in here Otherwise, you're not going to be able to hook it. I think coming around and hooking it like that might be a little bit, I don't know, might be a bit risky, but depends how much risk you want to take. All right. The delivery box is various delivery boxes where you can put things in, and especially when you have to deliver. My nightmare. Yeah, I'll tell you. All right, then the bumper or the plow. So you can attach it either like the V or the inverted V, kind of to go through attachments. All right, so just pause and say, okay, so where do we find these building instructions? There are building instructions, okay, and it's great. You can clear tasks. They know what to do. It's fast, straightforward. You don't have to hana. Use existing knowledge, and you expand the knowledge because you're building a frame of reference. However, there comes a point where it's like at somebody else's, all right, and it also might not be suitable. So there's a kind of a tipping point where you say, okay, now you've built it enough times. Now go and modify it to do it better, all right, and that's where the modification comes in. So if you are not building with building instructions, you're actually brainstorming, designing. It's like great creativity, teamwork. There's ownership because it's like our attachment. But it is time consuming, and that's where you as the coach need to be patient. Okay, you do need to be patient, especially if our learners are trying out new things. And I always say the teams of the Northern Cape, they can design amazing attachments. Mind-blowing, but they spend lots of time in the class building these attachments. And just there's another thing as well. There's a lot, especially in the Northern Cape, there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning, and so the older team members are happy to coach the younger team members, and it's good to see that this creativity carries on. All right, so follow building instructions, but don't stay there. Don't stick with that. Move on to the exploration and brainstorming. All things. All right. All right, there's your objectives: the bumper, the delivery box, the motion trigger, the box trap, the sweep, the hook, and the carabiner. And then you've got to actually program it to do something. So you can use anything to push, to dump, to deliver, collect, hook, whatever you want to do. All right. So, and then we kind of put together the building and the programming and said, okay, so if you've got a robot, then you've got to do the following thing. The items that you're pushing around, it's just what we often use. Yeah, my favorite still is a tin of condensed milk because it's heavy and it's not easy. And maybe not initially, but maybe further on, you can build a little bridge, you know, with a piece of cardboard, and they've got to push something up and then down, or yeah, it's getting some stuff done. All right, so designing attachments. There's Lego Digital Designer, there's Bricklink Studio. The cool thing is you can then share your designs with other teams, but there's another aspect to it. I have seen the most phenomenal attachments being built by team members, really amazing stuff. And we reverse engineer it to capture and to keep it as a reference. Yeah. It's amazing what teams can design. All right. My biggest reference for this is this winning design. I know it's for EV3s. I know there's a PDF version that's available on the internet somewhere, but it makes a good read. This book makes a good read. It's one of my go-to books for passive and powered attachments. There's another book out called EV3 Ideas. Not so many passive. There are a couple of passive attachments, but mostly powered attachments, and we'll get to that when we do powered attachments. Again, it's just easy if you've built it already, just to get an idea of what you can build and how you could build it. All right, and yeah, just try it out and see whether you can adapt it or whether it works. There's no words. There's no words in the whole book, so you just have to follow the pictures, follow the building instructions. I think he has got a website too. Isugawa has got a website, and I think you can download the ebooks. And I think somebody told me that they're available. I'll get back to you. I just can't think now. All right. So passive attachments, no power, no additional programming. You look at the verb, it must be easy to pin onto the chassis, and bumpers, plows, containers, and hooks. All right. Where do you get help? Your help is online. There's EV3 lessons on passive attachments. There's attachments for robots, for competition robots. This is kind of another version of it. If you watch any of these videos, if you get the learners to look very carefully and say, okay, so where are the teams using passive attachments? Yeah, just let them sit and maybe watch videos of other robots and with the specific way of the passive attachments. You can do that with powered attachments as well, and you can do it with sensors as well. But it's a good kind of starting point. All right, so there's all my attachments, and Casper made the background green because my favorite color is green. And yeah, there are some, if you look at them, but there are building instructions available. All right. So we've got to the end of Unit 4 on passive attachments. So read Unit 4 objectives, attempt at least one of the Unit 4 activities, and then complete the Unit 4 MOOC. And when you've done that, then you can access your assessment guide document. It's under syllabus, and you read the M1 challenge, and you create a mat, and you can stick it with insulation tape. Read what's required and then complete the challenge, and then record the video and then upload it as well. You only need to submit the URL, and just a comment which the markers have now encountered. The Google Drive must be accessible, because if you get a message you have no access to this Google Drive, well, that doesn't really help with the marking. Okay, so that's the one thing I would just end it there. All right, so I am done. I'm done discussing. I'm going to pause just a minute for questions, and then we're going to kind of do some practical programming, because I know Tumella's got the robot there, and I need just a thumbs up from Sylvia whether she's got a robot running there as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, do we have any questions? Kindly please feel free to raise your hand. This is an opportunity for you to get clarity where there is no clarity. Any questions? Please raise your hand, then I'll enable your microphone.
Any questions? Anybody?
All right, I see we don't have any questions today.
Sorry if I overwhelmed everybody. I'm really sorry.
Or how about I ask it this way? Who is confused? Please raise your hand. If you are lost, you are confused, you don't know what's happening, please raise your hand. Okay, no one. That means we're on the right track.
Yay! Okay, Matthew, sorry. I think what's also important. All right, so let me just quickly go here.
While you're going there, I see we have someone who has a hand out. Mukita.
Thank you. I was wondering if it may be possible for Dr. to share the slides or the presentations with us, maybe via email, so that we may also go through the presentations.
They are all available on the MOOC portal. They are all available on the MOOC portal.
Where exactly?
Under syllabus.
Okay.
Would you like Tumelo to show you?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Okay. All right, Tumelo. All right, we'll do that just now. I just want to do some practical programming. I'm just going to ask Tumelo, are you ready to show a robot that moves?
All right, then let me switch it on. Sorry.
All right, and then we're going to ask.
I'm ready.
Your EV3 classroom, maybe give you 5 minutes to show EV3 classroom, and then we'll let Sylvia show us the Spike Prime environment, how to program a robot. Sylvia, is that okay if you just give me a thumbs up?
I think she said she doesn't have a robot with her. I'm not sure.
It doesn't. Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. Sylvia, over to you.
I don't know if my mic works.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it works. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. No. I don't have a robot, and I don't think I'll be able to open the program because my laptop battery is dying and our power's been out since like 12 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
no problem. Maybe Sylvia can come with in the session tomorrow then. Okay, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye then.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I thought load shedding was disappeared, but anyway. Okay. Tomato, do you have the software open there, or must I show my screen?
I do have the software opened. Just give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
I know 2 seconds is not enough, but
it's the idea that counts.
yeah.
So maybe whilst Tomelo's setting up quickly, it's important that there are examples of coding in the slides, but it's really important that the learners understand the whole process. So starting, dragging and dropping, putting the things down, getting the hamburger effect, and then download onto the brain or the hub, and then running it from the computer. Okay, don't start the bad habit of doing download and run, because you're going to get to a point where your robot is going to run off the table. There we go. All right, Tumelo's got the screen up. Tumelo, do you want to take over the discussion?
I wouldn't want to take over. I would like to assist during the discussion.
Okay.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Lego Mindstorms Education EV3 classroom software.
Yeah.
And with this one here, it's a very basic type of programming that I'll be using. And the programming language that I'll be using, it's called Scratch. So I don't know whether you can see my cursor. So here on my cursor, you can see there are little circles on the left. So there's your motors, movement, display, sound, events, control, sensors, operations, and variables. So now I'll just explain what Dr. Gous indicated yesterday with the hamburger effect. So for the purposes of this, I'll simply go to the movement tab. Once I'm on the movement tab, I'll set my motors B and C. The reason why it's B and C, this is on default. You can even change it even here if you do want. But normally we leave it like this. Even when you connect your robot, you normally leave it to be like that. And then after setting it like that, I'm going to say set movement to 50%. You are able to also change your speed here. You can even say 100 or less, depending on how many to move. And then there's this one that says move forward for 1 rotations. So I'll take this one that says move forward for 1 rotations. Remember yesterday I used the ribbon to determine the circumference of this wheel. And after using the whole ribbon, I then put it next to the ruler and I got 17.5 centimeter. And this is the pointer that Dr. Gous was talking about earlier on. So as you can see, that's 1 full rotation over there. All right, so I'll just say perhaps, and if you want to change again, you simply say 5, or you simply click on where there's a number there. And then there's this part where it says rotation degrees and seconds. So I'll stick to rotations. And then let me just take this one where it's on control. Then I'll go to wait for 1 second. And even here, I can change the number of seconds that I want the robot to wait. Then I can still go to movement. Here on the movement tab is same thing, same drag and drop. But now you need to pay attention here on the forward. There's a drop down sign. Then I'll click on backward because I want my robot to start where it has started, to go back where it has started. I'll click on 5 because it's 5 rotation. Now, here's the most important part, the one that Dr. Hose was talking about, is the hamburger effect. So this one, we find it under control. This is here, the stop and exit program. So this is what we call the hamburger effect. And then I will explain further by putting this on the mat so that you can see what I programmed. I hope my camera is there. Can you see my camera?
Yes.
Your camera is on your face.
Oh, shucks, my camera is on my face. Let me do this. Perfect. Now you can see me, correct? And
Yes.
the robot as well.
And the robot, yes.
All right. So now what's going to happen is, let me go back to the screen. So now, Dr. Hose yesterday did talk about the download as well as the play, download and run option. What did you say about that option, Dr. Hose, yesterday?
Do
Just
not
to recap.
download and run. You download it first.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I was told that I mustn't download and run. So what I do, I'm going to download the robot. But normally what we do, on your top left here, follow my cursor, where it says project 1, I'll click on those 3 dots and click on rename. And then I simply go here. Then I can simply say M1. And then I save this. And then I go down to the download tab. When I click on the download tab, because I've enabled sound on my EV3 robot, it needs to make a sound. All right. Oh, sorry, I did not include sound here. So let me just start again. So when I click download, there we go. And then now I'll come here on my project. And then I assume that you can see my robot. And then when I click the middle button, you'll see that my robot is rotating for 5 rotations. Then it waits for 1 second and then it moves backwards. So this is the simple programming style here. But your learners can show you some few complicated stuff, and I don't think you have to panic when it comes to that. I think I'm done on my side, unless is there anything else?
I think you've given them a good introduction to programming. Sorry, just go back to your screen quickly, Tamela. I just want to explain.
Okie dokes.
I just want to make sure that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see there's a little green dot on the brain. So you are connected. So that's important. There we go. And it shows you exactly where the ports are connected. Excellent. There we go. And I'm glad to see your robot's 100% charged. Well done.
Thank you.
And you can see also now there's only 2 motors. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're just doing navigation with 2 motors. We're not doing sensors. We're not doing powered attachments. We're just doing straightforward navigation. And if you can get this right. Oh, sorry, where did you see the robot is charged, says Matthew. Just click again on the brain. Click on it. There we go. 100% charged. Is that Matthew is okay? You have to answer in the chat now. Because Matthew's okay, nice. There we go. All right. So again, oh, I see you've got another question, Tamela, from, hang on a minute, your hand is up. Whew, this is multitasking here. Brett. Hi, Brett. Yes.
Hi, me again. Just wondering what kit this, I see it's the EV3. Does it have a specific model name? And how does it compare in price to the Spike Prime?
Okay, so the EV3 is the forerunner of the Spike Prime. And I'm just going to show you, because some of us have been in this a long time, I'm just going to show you quickly. Oopsie, here, let me put the camera on. So if you look at the robot from Tumelo, that's the EV3 brain. Just click on mine. Bingo. All right. This is the NXT brain. All right. This is where the progress comes in, and I can get out my RCX here as well. I've got an RCX in the cupboard. This was the EV3. The NXT came out about 2007. What Tumelo's got is the EV3 that came out about 2013. It's about every 7 years there seems to be an upgrade, and now we've got spike primes. All right. So there's no. It's a robotics kit. Okay. And so, except for the color, this was also all the grays. The EV3 was also the grays and blacks, and it had little red buttons, just to give it some color. And then, of course, the Spike Prime is like all the color, the yellow and all the different colors. The EV3s are no longer available for sale, but you can pick up secondhand ones. And we program the EV3s, we program with EV3 Classroom, which is then the Scratch programming, so that there's an easier transition. And the learners have got Scratch as well in the schools. Yeah. If you can pick up an EV3, go for it. It's still my favorite. The NXT was where we started. And, oh, there we go. Tumelo's going to show you as well. But really, your imagination and your building or your designs, your creativity. There we go. So you can see the Spike Prime has got a smaller brick or brain or hub, whatever you're going to call it. It looks a little bit different to the NXT, and it definitely looks different from the EV3. This is nice and yellow and colorful, but same. Okay, yeah, and it's lighter. You can see it's smaller, but it's also lighter. So what we have found is that the robots built with Spike Primes, we sometimes add weights to it when we pick up things. Yeah, you'll also notice that the wheels, and I don't have a Tumelo, just show the wheel quickly. All right, so the wheel of the Spike Prime is one piece. It's one piece. All right, whereas your wheels of your EV3, the tires actually wore out, and so if you actually need to replace the tires of your EV3 robot, and we said they got flat, but it wears out, the thread wears out, whereas the new Spike tires is a single item. You can't take the tire off. You just can't take the tire off. Yeah, there's a whole thing as well. Ooh, oopsie. There's a whole thing as well with the weight. So let me just show you, which is why if you press, look at the tire that Tumelo's also got. If you press on it on the tire, there's always that bouncy, and so you get different performance. If your tires are, there we go. If you push it down, you're going to get different performance. Whereas the Spike Prime tire doesn't bounce. All right, there we go. You see how easy it comes off. And also, I've also seen teams just lose it when the tire's not on quite properly, and then that's just too much skid. There's no traction on the wheel, whereas there is traction on the Spike wheel. Okay. Thank you, Tumelo. There we go. I don't know, Brett, have I answered your question?
Yeah, thanks. I was just wondering if maybe it would be better to get EV3 because it's cheaper, because it's an older one, or
it's moving more onto collector's item now.
Okay, all right.
But if you can find an EV3, I just like the robot. Yeah, it's kind of where you are. And I've built them. Well, my teams. I don't build robots. My teams have built the most amazing robots, all out of one box. And then as we go along, you get spare parts. You get you can extra pieces. You can buy extra pieces from Bricklink. You can always to get extra pieces to build. That's why there's a core set, which is your main pieces. And then there's an expansion set, which comes in a second container. And those are just really the cool pieces that you pick up as you go along. Tumelo, you want to add?
Come again, sorry.
I see you're unmuted, so I thought you wanted to say something.
Oh, no.
You're good.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah, it's to get the robot to move, to make sure that you just get it to move and to do something, and to not be scared of getting it to move. Usually when we do workshops, the biggest noise comes from when the robot actually moves. And I must see if I can find that one video. We had a video, we did a workshop once. It was so loud. It was so loud. Oh my word. But the excitement was amazing. I'll see whether Anzani can find it for us. Yeah, but it's getting the learners to love learning, and you as coaches need to be there to, if things are not moving and not working, you need to be there. And I'm glad Sylvia's on the call as well. Sylvia's kind of our technical support, and many a time the coach is like, I don't know what to do, it's not working, and then Sylvia usually can find or give you the answers of why something is not working. Sometimes it's really odd things where the ports aren't. So your ports need to reflect on your screen. Otherwise, you're not connected. Otherwise, the wire's not working. I mean, wires sometimes don't work. If learners insist on pulling it out, you've actually got to release. You've got to like push it down and then pull it out. You can't just yank it out. So if learners are not careful with that, then it's not working. Then the wire's not working. Then it's no wonder the wheel won't work. Or if the ports are not even connected to the motors, then that's also debugging. So it's little things like that that you as coaches are going to pick up on your journey, and it's going to be an exciting journey. And I want to thank you for being with us on this journey. Okay. If there are no further questions, we are going to end the session today. We will hopefully have the recordings up, hopefully by the weekend. We'll ask Casper whether he has a moment. And then tomorrow we'll just maybe unpack the M1 challenge and how to read it and how to go about it. And and we'll share some ideas. I'm done. Tamela, you're still sharing your screen. Thank you very much for your help. I'm going to hope that Sylvia will also come into the session tomorrow if there are any questions. So if you have access to an EV3 robot, then you will use EV3 Classroom. You will download and install EV3 Classroom. And if you have the Spike Prime robot, you will use Spike Prime app. Okay, and then use the Scratch version. And that's it. That's it. It's been a hectic session, but a lot of interaction, which we're very grateful for. Thank you to Melo for demonstrating. And thank you to Almarie and Sylvia for being in the session. And we look forward to having another session tomorrow. All right, Tamela, if you can stop the recording, and we will then adjourn. Okay, have a good evening. Have a wonderful evening. It's midweek already. It's midweek. Thank you very much. All right.